More Genshin characters are set to release soon, and as always, there are opinions. Yeah, those pesky opinions. They just come out of nowhere and get all mixed up in everything and ruin all the fun, don't they? It's really something watching all the reactions to characters, be it due to their kit design, or their characterization in the story, or even just their physical appearance. If there's one thing to be said about these games, it's that their audiences are so big that variance in taste isn't just possible, it should be expected. I mean, you have millions of players on these games. We aren't expecting differences of opinion. Yeah, right before Mizuki released a few weeks back, I put my own 2 cents into the discourse surrounding her supposedly non-Genshin appearance, as well as the criticisms of her being overly fanservice-y. I also suggested that her occupation as a clinical psychologist may be linked to her identity as a Yumekui Baku, with her ability to enter and eat dreams being the very method she uses in her practice. Yeah, score 1 for me. That's literally exactly what they did. Though I mean, it wasn't hard to figure that out, but I digress. Here we go again, with Varesa, Iansan, and Aoife on the horizon. Iansan and Aoife actually seem to be pretty well received, but Varesa, oh boy, some people really ain't having it. There seems to be 3 separate but intertwined discussions revolving her. 1, some players feeling like she doesn't conform to the wider Genshin aesthetic. 2, once again, some players feeling she's overly fanservice-y. And 3, her visibly thicker body type, at least in comparison to the rest. Here's the thing, I have mixed opinions on these points, but even so, I can understand where other sides are coming from. It's really not that black and white, but well, let's just go with point number 1, that she doesn't conform to the wider Genshin aesthetic. Yeah, similar to Mizuki, I can sort of see where this claim is coming from. But similar to what I said in that video as well, just what is the Genshin aesthetic anyway? When I look at characters, it's hard to pinpoint any one coherent style, and I'm not even sure that's a Natlan thing. It was kind of that way even before Natlan. This is a game in which Skirk, Alhaitham, Siegewing, Bennett, Yanfei, Yelan, and even Dainsleif all exist in the same game. Point being, when it comes to dress code, there never really has been one. Characters kind of just wear whatever they want, it seems. To the extent there is cohesion in dress code, it's more so regional than game-wide. Ontanians do love their hats after all, and any manga or anime fan can tell you that Inazumans in general ooze a Japanese aesthetic. And I believe it's this more so than anything that calls Varesa's design into question, but not just her, Natlanese characters in general. Because, as a region, there's just so much going on with their character designs. The cohesion seems to come in the form of vaguely tribal aesthetics, but the cohesion kind of detaches from itself due to the fact there are multiple tribes. Mualani has a completely different aesthetic going on from Shalonen because one is People of the Springs and the other is Children of the Echoes, to the point that, unlike Inazuma where there are various groups and factions, yet they share a unified Inazuman aesthetic, characters just seem completely disconnected here in Natlan. Yeah, they're tribal, but the tribes themselves are different. There's also the fact that Natlan has a more modernized aesthetic overall, at least how I see it. And Varesa certainly doesn't beat any allegations here. Yeah, the arguments have already been made 1,000 times regarding the game already having modern elements in it. And hey, I even agree to an extent. After all, when I look at, say, Yelan, I see a character that looks relatively modern. Especially her coat that she, never wears. She just kinda has it on, but she doesn't wear it. Am I the wrong one here? She doesn't look any less modern than Varesa or other Natlan characters in my opinion. That said, Varesa is still on the far end of the spectrum for sure. I can see where the criticisms come from. It really shows itself in her attire, especially with her footwear, sleeves, cutesy clip-ons, and leg warmers. There's sliding scales to this thing, and she's up there pretty far. If modernization was the only part of her to talk about though, then she might have less discourse around her. But it's not just the modernization. Going back, I also mentioned how some players feel she's overly fanservice-y. Now, let me bring up Yelan again. We've had fanservice-y characters in the game for a long time. Really, we can go back further than that for examples of female fan service. Shoot, go back to Mondstadt. We just gonna forget about characters like Rosaria. Gonna forget the questionable outfit they put Fischl in. Go even further back, the first character we meet, Amber. But literally hanging out of her shorts. Look, I'm not saying this has been the most explicit game when it comes to fan service. Certainly not, but I am saying it's nothing really new either. Varesa shows some thigh and has a short skirt. Big deal. But I'm not going to be disingenuous here either. There is kind of one thing that makes her different, and again, it's similar to Mizuki. That thing is, her gameplay leans into it. Everything said about those other characters, there's not much in their gameplay that leans into the fan service side of things. That kind of changed with Mizuki, putting her butt right in the screen when she uses burst. And similarly with Varesa, I can see where some might say it's not just visual fan service, it's in the gameplay itself. She quite literally ground pounds with her rump, and it creates hard effects at that. Yeah, it's on the line, I'll say that much. But on the other hand, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt kind of. She's supposed to be a lucha libre wrestling inspired character, and they do all kinds of jumps, slams, flying attacks, and yeah. When looked at from that angle, Varesa ground pounding with her butt isn't an entirely pointless act of fan service. She's doing it sure, but she's also drop kicking and rolling around and other stuff too, so it's within character. Like how I pointed out Mizuki putting her butt in the camera was kind of in character too, considering she's a bathhouse character. Made sense with Mizuki, makes sense here as well with Varesa. It's not that out of place. Though, I do wonder if her body type has anything to do with anything, because, as I said with number 3, she has a visibly thicker body type in relation to the rest of the roster. This is just, dude, it's mind-blowing that I've seen some players call this model fat. Crazy talk. Put some meat on a character and suddenly they're fat. This is fat. Look, she's thicker than any of the other females for sure, but let's not go crazy on the labels here. I think the character size is fine, and as a food-loving character, I for one am pretty happy Hoyoverse decided to be a little brave. As far as you can say, this shows it anyway. Because again, this is just some meat on her bones, for once. Nearly 100 characters in the game, all with the same proportions. It's time for this. In fact, back in my original 9 things I still want to see in Genshin Impact video, new body types and shapes was in there. Hopefully, Varesa is just the beginning. Not just for females, but in general. It's time for super buff McLarge dudes. Barca's on the way after all, and yeah, also it's time for young boy characters too. It's just time for new bodies. I welcome Varesa's body type with open arms, especially she's still proportioned well. I'd say they're still playing it pretty safe with her proportions, but hey, body diversity is body diversity, I'll take it. On that note though, body diversity is one thing, but diversity in general is a good thing, I'd say. Which leads me to the other 2 upcoming characters we saw and know of as well, Iansan and Aoife. Can I just say for one, I'm really happy with this. Aoife looks freaking cool, and Iansan is just a treasure. I adore her so much. As someone who has a complexion somewhere between these 2 characters, I'm not going to shy away from this discussion and pretend it's not something that makes me smile. Is a few more brown characters so much to ask for? Granted, Iansan has been a thing since pretty much forever. Way back with the Travail trailer even, but I'm glad they stuck to it and didn't bleach her or something, know what I mean? And as far as Aoife goes, that's just icing on the cake. Dude actually looks so cool, and the white and teal pop so much with his complexion. You gotta love it. I do anyway. It's actually funny because Genshin has gotten quite a bit of flack for its overall lack of diverse skin tones. From a vocal minority maybe, a vocal minority that I myself am even a part of, but still. The part that's so funny is that, despite this, it's probably the most diverse in that regard, among the main chart-topping gacha games, which is crazy. HSR has like one brown character. Zenless Zone Zero has more animal characters than those with darker skin tones. And Wuthering Waves? Oh, we won't even talk about that. It actually just gets an F on that report card. Yeah, Genshin seems to be doing about the best when it comes to this. I do hope it's not the last we see in this game with Iansan and Aoife, which, again, we already had that hint about Iansan, but Aoife was a nice surprise, and I just hope it's not the last one. Not to mention the obvious, that, Aoife is like a dude, the rarest species into that. Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm usually not too big on guy characters, full disclosure, but I can get down with pulling them when I think they're cool enough, like with Kanich, or if they're useful enough, like with Zhongli. Just off first glance, Aoife is someone I would pull for. Yeah, no complaints from me on the design. It is kind of modern, but again, what are we expecting at this point? Back to Iansan though, her vague modernization takes a backseat to what in my opinion is actually a more tribal look than almost all of the other Natlan characters. That sliding scale of modernity, she's still on it, sure, but she's definitely on the lower end of it. I can't put a finger on it really. I think a huge part of it is that skull she's wearing on her head. That thing alone gives her an incredibly tribal appearance, but I do think the feathers and hairstyle and stuff help too. More so than most of the other characters anyway. Like, I put Kachina and maybe Sitlali on Iansan's end of the spectrum, though that may be an unpopular opinion with Sitlali, but I totally see a mystic shaman aesthetic when I look at her, albeit somewhat modern, but nowhere near the same as her Masters of the Nightwind clanmate Auroran. Dude is just straight up modern. But yeah, Iansan, I think if most Natlan characters stayed at this level of modernity, there'd actually be less overall criticisms. Iansan looks ready to fight. Varesa, on the other hand, looks like she got tired of waiting for her friends at the mall and went to get tacos instead. I think the best way to think of it is this. If I was out and about in my city and someone walked by me wearing their outfits, would I think it's normal attire? Or would I think it's some kind of cosplay or occupational uniform? If I saw someone wearing Iansan's outfit, I'd be like, oh, they're cosplaying a character. Same with like Kachino or Sitlali, that's why I put them on the same end of that spectrum. But by contrast, if I saw someone in Varesa's outfit while out and about, it's possible I would not even notice it. They'd just be another person in the crowds, And if I did notice, then I still wouldn't conclude that they were cosplaying. That's the thing. Same with, say, Shalonen. Don't get me wrong, I would definitely notice if someone was wearing Shalonen's outfit. But if I didn't know about Shalonen the character, I feel I wouldn't conclude that the person was cosplaying anything or wearing anything special. All in all though, it's still all tastes. There's no right or wrongs here. That has to be remembered. I really enjoy the designs of Iansan and Aoife, basically no complaints there, while I'm okay on Varesa's design. But out of this huge player base, there is someone out there who really just doesn't like Iansan or Aoife. There are also those for whom Varesa is the absolute perfect character. And there are also those who absolutely hate her, and there's nothing wrong with that either. That's why I'm such an advocate for things like diverse body types and skin tones and, different modes of dress. That way, everyone eventually gets something that tickles their fancy. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. Everybody doesn't have to have everything, but it's nice when everybody can have something. You know what I'm saying? Though, if I did have one strong complaint about what we're looking at here, why does she eat her tacos top down?